So, back in the 1800s, there was an expression, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That kind of means the opposite of what it does now. Then it was used mockingly to describe an impossible act. Now, an 1834 publication ridiculed a claim to have built a perpetual motion machine by saying that the inventor might next heave himself over a river by the straps of his boots. An 1840 citation scoffs that something is as gross an absurdity as he who attempts to raise himself over a fence by the straps of his boots. Yet this phrase has become part of America's mythology and the centerpiece of, an approach to help those left behind, lift themselves up by the bootstraps. Now, at one point, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, AOC, dismissed bootstrapping at a congressional hearing just by saying physically impossible. And of course, outrage reverberated all over the conservative world. Now, Sean Hannity's blog said that her assertion left millions of television viewers scratching their heads. Another commentator said that she was completely clueless. Well, how about this? Let's think it through. So, it's true that upward mobility has always resonated deeply in the United States, right? U.S. symbolizes opportunity, right? Some people, they do manage these amazing journeys to the top. Ben Carson, he grew up as an impoverished child of a single mother in Detroit and became a pediatric neurosurgeon and secretary of housing and urban development. Wow, that's quite a feat. And then, the problem is that this bootstraps narrative, they say it drives out good policy, and they say it does it in three ways. Okay, well, let's look at what they think. So first, it suggests that historically Americans rose purely through rugged individualism. Think of the pioneers. But why did the pioneers go west? Because of government benefit programs that granted them homesteads. 10% of America's land was given out as homesteads, and perhaps about a quarter of Americans owe part of their family wealth to the Homestead Acts. Then there was American investment in free high schools and state colleges and universities, gigantic programs like rural electrification, the GI Bill of Rights. I mean, even when we were a much poorer nation, we were able to afford huge national investments to help disadvantaged Americans because they were a priority. Now, secondly, a lot of people say that the bootstraps narrative suggests that benefits programs are counterproductive because they foster a dependency or a need of, right? That may have been, a plausible argument. But if we were to look at the evidence now, it indicates that maybe this isn't correct. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe. Europe and Canada have much more robust social welfare systems than the U.S., but Americans in the prime working years, which that's going to be the ages of 25 to 55, they're more likely to drop out of the labor force than Europeans and Canadians, during those ages. Americans drop out of the labor force primarily because we do worse than other countries of investing in workers' education, investing in their health care, addiction treatment, job training. The list goes on and on, but those are kind of the big ones. Now, the third thing, the bootstrap narrative implies that anyone can do it. Everyone can do exactly what Ben Carson did, right? Now, this is like arguing that because some people can run a 4-minute mile, everyone can. Yeah, some Americans soar from humble beginnings, right? More often, the top is occupied by those who say we're earning a lot of money at a really young age, right? Some research finds that upward mobility has tumbled in the U.S. over the last half century and is now lower than in Europe. it's particularly hard for people to scramble and get up from, when they came from, say, a violent home, bad schools, maybe they were in foster care, or they face, some sort of impediment. These can be challenges, but they can be addressed to some extent, but not by, sermons about bootstraps. Now, here's the thing. This is interesting to me. This is why I want to talk about it. Um, this is what I was having a conversation with somebody about the other day. This is what they told me. This is how they felt. I did a little research into it, and lo and behold, it's a bunch of people who feel this way. Now, this is interesting to me, particularly because they say, oh, you know, two parent households are better. One parent households, you're not really that likely to do that well. Coming from a poor schooling system, coming from a violent home, um, all these things. But yet, I know that my anecdotal evidence, it might be the exception, not the rule. Okay. So so when you dig into it though, you know, there's more self-made millionaires who came from nothing than there ever has been ever before, right? I mean, astoundingly so. So when they say that, oh, you know, Americans rose purely through rugged individualism, right? That's not exactly like when someone says pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's not purely through rugged individualism. Now, there is some that goes into that, sure, 100%. Each individual is going to only be able to do so much because of your mindset. If you don't think you can do it, you're probably not going to be able to do it, right? I mean, that's just how it is. Mindset matters, right? And we're not saying that that's the only reason why. Your individualism is the only reason why, but it plays a part. So that's the first one. Second one, the bootstrap narrative suggests that benefit programs are counterproductive. Not all. Not all benefit programs are counterproductive because they create dependency. But when you have one program and then you add another one and then another one, and they all work off of each other to incentivize you to, say, not work, or incentivize you to whatever it might be, whatever negative thing is going to come from that incentive, right? Getting you to basically just kind of relax and chill. There, there's so many programs out there that are really good and are necessary, but not all of them. But then the third thing, the bootstrap narrative applies that everyone can, did do a Ben Carson did, arguing that some people can run a 4-minute mile. If someone can, then everyone can. Here's my problem with that. Anyone without a disability can, right? That's the beauty of it. If you put in the work, if you lose the weight, if you get in shape, it might take you a year, 2 years, 5 years. You could eventually run a 4-minute mile. Everyone can. Again, as long as you don't have some sort of disability preventing you from running. That is what the whole bootstrap narrative is really about. Is that if you put in the work, right? You do what you need to do. Sure, there are some simple guidelines that you want to try to stay within, like play within the system or whatever, but nothing so egregious. And if you're able to, really hustle and grind and work at it, yeah, you can actually pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Now, it is much easier with help. But when we talk about giving someone help, we're not talking about, government programs to aid them in doing something. We're talking about get a mentor, right? Go learn some skills, right? You don't need to go to college, go to a trade school. There's so many different things. So, if at any point someone tells you that pulling yourself up by the bootstraps is just a fairy tale, a fantasy, As with everything we talk about, I would like to say just do a little research. Don't just get one side of the coin. It seems to be that one side of the coin is perpetuated constantly. And the more you dig into certain things, the more you are only bombarded with only that side of the coin. So maybe go look at the other side of the coin. Maybe go look at different data. I don't know. But what I do hope you do is I hope you have a good day, a good rest of the week, a good year. You know, more importantly, I hope you achieve everything you want to achieve and you have a good life. But until I see you guys in the next video, y'all be safe.